everybody. I'm Andy Vineberg, and welcome to episode 68 of the David Uosikkinen In the Pocket podcast. And once again, this week we're coming to you visually via Zoom. So hopefully you're watching us right now on YouTube or Facebook or wherever else you watch your Zoom interviews these days. And as you can see, if you're watching us, we are blessed this week. Dave pulls out the trumpet. This is a monumentous occasion for Dave to pull out the trumpet.
Oh my God! Are you kidding me?
We are, as you can see, if you're watching us, and if you're listening, you can't see yet, but if you're watching, you know that we have with us this week one of the greatest drummers in the world, very, very close friend of Dave's. These two guys have so much mutual respect for each other.
What inspiration! Oh my God!
What a guy! Yeah. What a talent! What a great guy! And what the stories he has to tell, and he has told them in a brand new book. His name is Liberty Devitto. He's with us there on the screen from his home, and I assume in New York. Is that where you are, Liberty?
In Brooklyn, New York, yes.
Brooklyn, New York. That's great. So Liberty has a brand new book out. It's called Liberty, Life, Billy, and the Pursuit of Happiness. Billy, of course, being Billy Joel, who Liberty spent 30 years with. They've recently reconciled, and all the great Billy Joel music, or most of the great Billy Joel music, Liberty Devitto contributed to it with his incredible drum parts that he created and played on. And if you saw Billy Joel in concert anytime from 1976 until the mid-2000s, you saw Liberty play with him.
Right.
And one of the reasons that Billy Joel was so incredible live performer was his band, including Liberty. So we're going to talk all about the book, about what Liberty's doing now, about his history, about Billy. First, I do want to mention, Dave, we're once again brought to you this week by the great people at gotpeace.com.
Great.
Our friend Trudy Handelman, check them out, gotpeace.com. They sell all kinds of neat little clothes and trinkets that promote peace, which we could all use a little more of these days.
Okay.
We got t-shirts and caps and little stuffed cows and keychains. So check it out, gotpeace.com. We're also, again, brought to you by our great friends at Croker Percussion. CrokerPercussion.com. Eric Metz, great friend of the show. He makes all kinds of really cool percussion instruments. Dave has played many of them right here on the show. You can check them out at CrokerPercussion.com or give them a call at 215-669-8588. And then again, Dave, we're brought to you by your friends at School of Rock, where you're a teacher. School of Rock, specifically the one in Berwyn. You can go sign up and have Dave as a drum teacher and help turn you into take young kids and give them the chance to feel like a rock star, basically.
Put them on stage, let them rock away, like the old days.
Right.
If now you go into the School of Rock and you see a stage, Marshall amps, AC 30s, a PA. I mean, when Liv and I were coming up, we were probably in a garage putting a record on and moving that little needle around trying to learn parts or coming up with our parts. It was a whole different ball game. So they got such an amazing opportunity now. And the School of Rock has, not only me, but they have some great teachers and it's a great program. And they, it's, I can't say enough about it. It's really, and you know what? We have the school in Berwyn, but they're all over the country. So right. if there's a School of Rock near you and you have a youngster or somebody that wants to get involved with music, no better program. Fantastic.
Right. And you're doing your teaching remotely right now or social distance teaching?
I got back last week. I mean, we're doing all the social distancing.
Social distancing is what I meant, right.
We're doing all that. There's like a shower curtain in between me and the student. We have all the things that you do that have to stay safe. I don't know how, you do what you can and hope for the best, but we're getting back into it and being as safe as possible. So, all right.
That's great. So check them out, schoolofrock.com.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get into it with Liberty. The last time we had you on, Liberty, way back in December of 2018, episode 15, I believe it was.
Okay.
You and Dave spent half the show telling each other how much you loved and respected each other. So get that out of the way now, and then we'll get into the good stuff.
I love you, Liv. You're the best.
I love you too, Dave. You're the best too, Dave.
Oh, man.
We're both best.
No, we got that out of the way.
Yeah, okay.
Hey, Liv, one thing, though. My wife, we've been doing this podcast. I think this is is this 68?
68.
It's the first time, and being this is usually we do it on a Thursday, and this is unusual doing a Tuesday night. But this is the first time that Dallin's come down the steps, and she goes, I want to say hi. It's Liberty Devitto.
Where is she?
Well, where is she, Dave?
Where are you, Dal? She went outside, but she will be here, and she's going to come say hello at some point.
Terrific.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, should we start right away with the book, Liberty? Why? Why now? What was
this
There it is. There it is.
There
Check it
it
out.
is, man.
Order it on Amazon.com or HudsonMusic.com.
Yeah.
It's Liberty's memoir. And what was the inspiration? Why'd you decide to write a book? Why now?
Well, first of all, it's the most incredible thing I've done. I mean, this is something I did. Billy Joel, Billy Joel, it was his name, and I was the drummer that played with Billy Joel. That was all great and stuff like that. But this book, I did this. I wrote this book. It's I can't believe that I hold this in my hand and I wrote this.
Wow. I thought about that, Lib. I thought, wow, what it must have taken to do that. I mean, because there's so much involved with writing a book, and I can only think. I mean, you have such a history, not only with Billy but with other artists, and to just put that all down and organize that and edit and do all that stuff, man. That's a huge undertaking. I was thinking, man, where do you find the hours in a day? Because I know you're busy doing other stuff.
Yeah. Well, I started to write it 15 years ago when I had the falling out with Billy.
Right.
And I was the angry old man back then.
Uh-huh.
And,
well, we never knew.
Yeah, no. Well, I tried to hide it, but.
Well, you did good. You were always like, you were always cool about it. Like, I know when we went down to Florida, when you invited me down to play with you, I was struck by how you didn't seem bitter to me. You seemed like, there were things that you weren't happy about, but you didn't seem like, you certainly weren't a curmudgeon, and you were playing like you just, you're out of your mind. So I didn't get that sense at all.
Well, I was hiding it. It was eating me up inside.
Yeah, I can imagine.
There was a long time that I didn't even want to listen to the records anymore. If they would come on the radio, I would turn them off. So the first writing of the book, of the chapters, I was very angry, and I wanted the book to be like, after Billy, what happened after Billy? How did I come back? And then when I thought about that, I went back to like, how did I begin? There's a lot of videos on YouTube and stuff of how to learn to play the drums. Right. You can learn to play a paradiddle like 100 miles an hour and stuff like that. Well, I never took lessons.
Right.
So I followed my heart and my soul and my passion, and sometimes it led down an ugly road. I talk about my substance abuse in here. I talk about my getting a divorce from my wives. I talk about the death of Doug Stegmeyer, the bass player that all the time.
Wow.
I talk about playing with the band Big People that had Ben Orr in it, and at the time I remember when Ben Orr passed away.
Yeah.
Those kind of things that nobody really talks about what it really is like. Dave, more than anybody else what it really is like. You're a smash hit one day, and the next day you're like, what are we going to do now?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you got to come up with I remember Andy, Billy Joel, I guess they were in Europe, and we were playing a club I think it was in Munich, and it was either Munich or Frankfurt, but I believe it was Munich, and Liberty and the guys came over, and it's like a traveling family, Yeah. And the thing of it is that, what always struck me, because Billy always had longevity, and he always had, he's in the US, he's always been pretty massive, he can play big shows, but obviously, I didn't know the ups and downs of that band, but I knew the ups and downs of my band. Like, I remember, okay, we're no longer with, Sony Records. Okay, now what's plan B? We go to Universal or MCA, and I remember there were changes, and then all of a sudden we start making a home in Europe. Like, I never thought that Europe would be a place where we were going to be. That's where our nest egg nowadays. I mean, we go and we would have been there for 10 weeks this summer, playing if it wasn't for COVID. But, there are the ups and downs. And then it's about how some bands fold them when it's like, okay, things are not what they used to be, so we're not going to go play. And you won't get in the van. I remember we had to cut back. And I don't know if you had to do that. Maybe Billy had to do that at times, but you experienced those ups and downs, right?
Yeah, when Billy got screwed by his manager.
I remember that.
We were getting percentage of the gross, me and Doug, and, we were getting royalties for the records and stuff like that. But when he got screwed by his manager, he came up to us and he says, I feel like I'm Peter stealing from Paul, but I need everything back. I want all my stuff back. So that's when we went on salary. That's when he stopped the royalties to a lot of the earlier albums.
Right.
You know, he was broke, but you learn how to survive in that situation.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about how many notes you play on your drum set. It's like
exactly
live in this business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I look at construction workers out there, and they got those boots on, and they're filthy, and they're digging deep holes. It's like, I can't do that, and I would never try to do it. You know?
Yeah.
Well, the music business is the same way. It's probably the most cutthroat business in the world.
Brutal.
And, you know, there's always somebody that wants something from you.
Right.
And you got to be able to deal with that kind of stuff.
Yeah. But you've been nothing but a survivor. I mean, after the Billy thing was over, I think there's a lot of things I admire about you, Lib. You're just such a good guy, and you're so giving, and you're always so giving to me. But after that Billy thing, you seemed, it appeared as if you rolled with the punches, even with the pain that you were going through. You rolled with it, man. So, and you figured out, hey, man, you still wanted to play. I mean, look, because I know Lib and I sometimes play with our friend Quentin Jones, and I mean, you got to really want to play music to play with Quentin Jones. God bless him. Quentin's great, but you know, it's like, you know, it's not like you play. It's a rockabilly gig. It's a rocking gig, but you're working, you know, and it's not like it's paying high dollars or anything. You're doing it for the love of it, right?
Exactly. You do it because you love music and you love to play live. Yeah. You know, I gotta say, you know, I was bitter. You know, when that bubble bursts, you're lost, because it's like for 30 years I was Billy Joel's drummer, you know, and you know, now I wasn't that person anymore. And like I say in the book, it wasn't until I don't know if you know any guys from Sabian, Dave, but there was.
Well, I knew Lenny when Lenny went over there, didn't he? From Lenny from Sabian went over. I know Lenny. Yeah. Well,
there was one guy, Wayne Blanchard, who worked there, and I called him up. I was calling up everywhere. I was calling up Pat Brown at Promark and saying, "What do I do? What am I going to do?"
Right.
And you know, so Wayne Blanchard said, "Okay, first thing you have to do is stop saying you are formerly the drummer with Billy Joel, or you used to play with Billy Joel. No. You know who you are? You are the guy that Billy Joel chose to help create those unbelievable smash hits and those unforgettable tours."
You were part of the show, Lib. For me, I love Billy, but I was coming to see you. I told this story on the last podcast. You and Mary were in a shopping, and you were in the store, and I remember I said I don't know, I forget who I was with, but I said, "Oh my God, that's Liberty Devitto." I couldn't even say hello to you. I was like, "Oh my, you're a god." And because the night before you were playing multiple nights at the Spectrum, 4 or 5 nights. And I was there the night before, and I'm telling you, I was amazed that you were walking, because the way you were throwing down, it was like unbelievable. You were, I don't know, for me, you were the show. Billy was great, but it was like, man, that was what my eyes were going towards you. It was awesome.
Yeah, well, we had the vibe of being a band, and you know, one guy fed off the other guy, and we just, you know, played like it was the last show that we were ever going to play.
Right.
So, you know, I seen that recently. I went to see the Foo Fighters because they're fans of mine.
Yeah.
And so I stood on the side of the stage
with Taylor,
and I watched them, and I was like, "Oh my God, these guys, they're going to drop dead after the show."
Yeah, Taylor's a monster.
They don't care, you know. So that's the vibe that we had. You know, it's the kind of vibe that you guys had, jumping around, dancing. You know. Yeah. You got to have that vibe to do that. You know,
Right.
And it was just 5 guys or 6 guys, 3 guys, whatever, to carry a show in an arena is an amazing thing to do.
Yeah, because you made it very personal. And then I got the greatest treat in the world. When we got signed to Columbia, we were invited to do a show at the Egg, the Tokyo Dome in Japan. And we flew over with Billy and Billy's band, and Lib and I hung out, and I got to watch right from the back of the stage, watch them play. I remember, I tell you, it was like yesterday. I remember you guys playing the Traffic songs. You were doing
Yeah.
traffic songs. Billy came out and it looked like you were having so much fun. And I was right behind you, and you didn't have like you were using monitors. It was,
Right.
you know, and I remember just the joy you guys were playing, and at sound check you guys were killing it. It was like you know, it was like you were playing. It was like a show, but you were doing
Yeah.
all cover tunes. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So, look, you know, by the time the 15 years were over, you know, I put it away, and somebody would say, "Hey, you got great stories. You should write a book." I'd take it out, pencil some things down, and then put it away again. And finally, somebody said, "You know, you've got enough stuff here that you could probably put a book together." So I did that. I put a book together. I kind of smoothed out the rough edges. The book doesn't throw anybody under the bus, you know, even though, you know, Dave, and Andy, you know, too. I mean, there's backstabbers everywhere. They
Sure.
want your gig,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
or they want to be the main guy in that band. I was the main guy in Billy's band because I was there. I was the only one connected to the records at the end, you
Right.
know. So people wanted that position, but I don't throw anybody under the bus. I kind of put myself in the situation of Billy when I thought about why he did certain things. Why did he get rid of the band, the original band? At the time when I was in Australia, he told me, he goes, "What if we go in the studio, just you and me and new guys?" I was like, what am I going to do? These are my friends. I know Russell Jarvis since I was 15 years old,
Right.
you know? But I had to understand Billy. I had to understand that man's name is on the marquee. That man is writing a new album with 14 songs in it, all by himself. 4 of them at least have to be hit records.
Yeah.
He's playing piano. He's singing lead. And I'm the drummer. I'm saying like, "Oh, you can't fire these guys." And he's like, "I want to try something new, you know?
Yeah.
I want to try something new." What do you mean I can't? I'm trapped with these guys.
Right.
I can do what I want. I'm Billy, you know?
Yeah.
And I get it now. You know, with age, when you get older, you mature and you understand things. You know, Billy had a great song called Shades of Grey on the River of Dreams album, where he talks about, you know, seeing the world through the eyes of the youth is black. You know, I like this, I don't like that, I didn't love this, don't like that. Now, with age, it's kind of like, you know, the edges are blurred. It's kind of like, well, I can see why they do that. And yeah, I can see why they do this. So, you know, so you mature a little bit and you understand people more. And the story is about these 2 friends that finally got together at the end. They had a falling out, made beautiful music, and I call it the babies. You know, Billy was the father, I was the uncle.
Yeah.
You know, we had a falling out. The Lords of 52nd Street get back together again, me, Russell, and Richie Canada, and we start playing the songs. I get new appreciation for those tunes. I fall in love with them again.
Yeah.
I think about the happy times we had.
Right.
The only thing was now the friend.
Yeah.
So
I'm so happy when I heard that news, and I saw it because it was big news, and that the fact that he wrote the foreword, that was remarkable. You know, I mean, because I just believe in my heart that to carry that kind of stuff around, and you know, even though I didn't know it, I was impressed that you were handling it the way you were, and you did. But to know that you had some sort of reconciliation in that way, I've got to help, man. You know,
well, and it's great because I read an interview with you, I think that you did with Rolling Stone just recently, where you basically said that the falling out with Billy Joel was over what turned out to be a misunderstanding. And you don't need, I know you don't want to get into the specifics of it, but basically what the issues were there, it was a whole misunderstanding, could have been avoided. And so it would have been ridiculous if you went the rest of your lives without reconciling over basically a misunderstanding, correct? And it was a misunderstanding that led to the issues?
Oh, it was definitely a he said, she said kind of thing. You know, well, an artist like Billy Joel, there's tons of people around him. There's the band members, there's the crew, there's the management, and everybody wants to be in a certain position. They want to jockey for this one position that's the closest to Billy. And I was the closest to Billy. And so when somebody gets in his ear and says something that he tried, that's talking to him, and then he says something about me, Billy's going to be immediately like, oh, that's it. It's done. It's over. He crossed the line, you know, but he doesn't come and ask me if it's true.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know what's going on. I don't know why I'm getting cut.
Yeah.
So I don't go to him. I just get angry and go, what the heck are you doing, man? You know, it's insane. The biggest mistake I made was not going right to his house and waiting outside till he pulled out of his garage or something.
What's up?
Stopping him of what happened, you know. But you know, the Sicilian in me got the best of me, and I got angry first.
Right.
You know, the kind of guy that you would punch somebody, swing him on the ground, pick him up, and go, okay, what did you do? You know?
I think that's, you know, you're playing, and when you talked about the way you learned to play drums was much like, you know, I had a couple. I never formally. I took some lessons here and there, and you know, most of really. I mean, look, some teachers helped me, so I will give them all the credit in the world. But a lot of it was through records, listening to records, and trying to, you know, watching other drummers, and that's the way you do it. But you know, you play with such emotion. I mean, and you get you know, like. The band, you know, it must have been very difficult for you because when you talked about being asked to play with other guys,
right,
the struggle inside, and you have to figure that out. You know what I mean? So because I know your connection with people in general, you know, you know, that kind of thing. You know, it's you get close to people.
It was crazy playing with other people. You know, luckily. One of the first things I did was play with Billy J. Kramer. You know, Billy J. Kramer. Went to Brian Epstein. And
sure.
The Beatles wrote his first 4 hit singles. So I was fortunate enough because Billy is such an amazing guy.
Yeah.
He's an amazing guy. And so it was easy. And he had seen me play with Billy at Wembley in England, you know.
Yeah.
So he knew my work. And as of today, we're best of friends.
Oh, that's great.
You know, and I write in the book, I said, I'm friends, best of friends with Billy J. Kramer, and it's probably the closest I'll get with hanging out with the Beatles.
That's great. That's great. There was another thing that I read, and I think it was pretty recently when you talked about when Little Richard passed away, and you mentioned that he saw you and he said, drummer. Like,
what happened was
because he knew he was like Jerry Lee Lewis in a sense that like. You're driving it, and if he's not feeling it, no one's feeling it. You know.
Right. I'm sitting in the audience and watching his sound check because I'm playing with Chuck Berry that night.
Right.
And I'm in the audience watching Little Richard do his sound check, and he keeps looking at this. This is his assistant. Looks at me and then looks at his assistant. Looks at me, and then his assistant whispers something in his ear. And then he stops playing and he looks at me and he goes, "Oh, you the drummer. You the good drummer."
That's great. Oh man, there's not you know, getting that kind of singled out like that, and rightly so. That's awesome. I like that story a lot. That's great.
Yeah, I love to what.
Just getting back to the reconciliation with Billy. So you reached out to him to meet for breakfast. Is that what happened? And then you guys sat down and. Was there any awkwardness, or did you guys just?
Well, you know, it was great. I know that he felt the same way I did. He was, you know, because it was immediate that he answered my email, and it started off with,
"Wow,
yeah, I'm up for doing that," because you know I was kind of disappointed at the way it ended too.
Yeah.
You know, so I know that he was going through the same thing because we were battling in the press all the time, and on Facebook, people saying things, and. You know, there was one point where he said, "I can't tell you what happened because it would ruin Liv's life." And I'm like, what the heck could it be that would ruin my life? Nothing could ruin my life. You know, everything's so great right now. So, but when we met and we had breakfast, I mean, the biggest conversation was that he had bacon and eggs and I had pancakes, and he was shocked that I could eat pancakes. And then he went, "Oh, you're playing tonight. That's right. You can one," you know. And we just talked about children. He has Alexa Ray, who's older now and is on her own. I have 3, you know, Devin, Tori, and Marielle that are older and they're on their own. He has 2 little children. He's got one that's 4 and one that's 2. I've got one that's 3. You know, so we have so much in common still. Wow. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
And then obviously getting him to write the foreword to the book, it was just the capper of reconnecting and everything. I mean, that just lent.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a great thing.
I said, so what are you doing, Billy? And he told me, oh, we got these gigs. I still got the garden. And, I got an offer to go to Japan and do a one-off in Australia or whatever. And then he said, so what are you doing? And I said, well, I got the Slim Kings, so and the Lord. And he said, oh, yeah, I keep getting these reviews about the Lords, and they're great. This is unbelievable. The more you play, the better it is for me. And so then I said, and I wrote a book. And he kind of like went, really? And I said, yeah, sorry, it's good. It's all good. It's about the good stuff. It talks about, it's about me. It's about my life and how I saw things.
Yeah.
And then I said, if you're not doing anything, when you want to write the forward, you can. He looked at me and went, I'll write you a forward. And then he made a joke and went, yeah, I'll write you a forward.
Yeah. Wow.
That's so cool.
And then I sent him the book when we got done editing it and it was all finished. I sent him the book, and immediately, boom, the forward came back. He says, read this and tell me if it's good enough. It's like, what, are you kidding me? When I read it, like, I started crying. It's like, I don't think I've ever been officially gotten the credit for what I did from him. Somebody asked me once, does Billy tell you when you play something really good? And I said, no, in this business, you only know when you play bad. They'll mention it.
That's a good line.
Yeah.
So
getting the credit that he gave me in the forward of this book is like unbelievable. I can't thank him enough for what's going on. I just looked at the book on Amazon, and last night, Billy put it all on his internet. All his internet things yesterday.
Wow.
Yesterday afternoon.
Social media stuff.
Last night, huh?
He's gets all his social media stuff. His house.
All his social media. Yes, that's it. Last night, Elton was number 1. Pink Floyd was number 2, and I was number 3 in rock biographies. Check it out.
Wow. Well, you're number 1 in percussion.
20 minutes later, I looked at it. Elton was number 1. I was number 2. Pink Floyd was number 3.
Wow.
Then look at it 20 minutes after that. I was number 1. Elton was number 2.
Awesome. Fantastic. I mean, and that must blow you away. But it doesn't surprise me. I mean, look, it just seems like it's a perfect storm, and it's a great story, and especially for now. It really is. It couldn't come at a better time, Lib. Really, with everything that we're going through right now. A story like this and what you've told us about it, and I'm so happy that people I haven't read the Rolling Stone thing yet. I just saw it. I shared it when I said you were coming on the podcast.
Right.
But people seem to or that read or seen parts of it are loving it.
I'm always fascinated and impressed when someone writes a memoir or a look back at their life, how you remember stuff that happened, when you were a teenager and some of the stuff that you went through with your early bands. Was that a struggle to recall some of that stuff? Did it all come back to you? Because obviously you're not taking notes on your life as your life is happening. So
some of the stuff I had to ask the other guys in the band, like when Richie left the band, I didn't remember why he left. Right. And I had to ask him, why did you leave? And he said, because he started to produce Rita Coolidge, and he started to play with the Beach Boys. He was running his own studio. Too much was going on. He had to leave the band. He chose to do that. But you got other people to talk to. And Dave, if you ever decided to write a book, it's the same as sitting down and when the writers of the material come in for the Hooters, and you sit down and you create and you put your whole self into it to create a part. That's exactly what you do when you're writing a book. You're putting your whole self into it, and you want it to be exactly your voice, but say something that's so moving for everyone.
And I think, it feels like when the book was done and you read it again, you felt like, okay, this is me speaking to my people, right? You felt good about that. That's important. That's really important. Yeah.
Right. And like you said, in this new atmosphere of the world and the way it is now, it's like when I get an email from somebody, it was like, I can't believe that you said half the things you did in your book. It's like you talk about when your brother passed away of AIDS, and it was in 1986 when he got AIDS. Nobody knew about AIDS then. And I talk about that, like what it was
Wow.
like. It's so relevant to what's happening today. Nobody knows what's going on.
Wow.
You know.
You ever talk to Mickey? Mickey. I was emailing back and forth with Mickey Curry today.
Yeah,
And
sure.
his brother George was a good friend of mine, who became friends of mine. They used to come see me, and his brother, I think he was about 5 years sober, and then he passed away of a similar situation, which I don't know if you guys knew that. Both great drummers, both had brothers that passed away from that. I'm sorry to hear that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was tough. I mean, and people, I wrote about the downside of, there's that Billy Joel's drummer, that line, and then there's the parallel line was Liberty Devitto and his personal life.
Right.
The personal life sometimes intertwines with that Billy Joel's drummer, and there's a battle.
Right. And when you would go on the road, you were in the heyday. I mean, to me, like I think back, the golden years of I remember, I don't know, maybe I was 18, 19 years old, going to RCA studios in New York. We would get downtime in the studio at night. And I think 52nd Street was just released. We were listening to that and Asia. It was around the same time that and I remember we would finish at 5 a.m. and drive back to Philly from New York. And to me, they were like the golden age of, like, for me, like that's a record, like you working. I remember you working with Phil Ramone, and I remember thinking, oh my God, but and you were really you were the goalpost for me, which really, especially you. And I'll tell you, those records and those times, and you did those tours that lasted for 14. You were out for 14 months. I mean, like a year, and then it was like you're gone for 3 months, you're home for 2 weeks, you're going, like, you did crazy tours.
Crazy tours. Yeah, but it's like when you drove from Philly up to do those sessions at night, and you got left at 5 a.m, and the sun was coming up when you're driving down the turnpike, and you're paying your dues.
Nothing like it though, man.
Kids that are playing music today don't know what it's like to pay their dues.
Yeah.
I was in a band in Baltimore for like 6 months after I played with Mitch Ryder with some guys from his band. And let me tell you something, I paid my dues. I lived above the club, and the club was falling down, and there was derelicts in this club. I felt like the Beatles must have felt when they went to Hamburg. They paid their dues. Nobody pays their dues anymore. Now they're on the Star Search or whatever they're on, and it's like they're famous,
Yeah.
Hey, in the book, Liberty, I know you talk about each Billy Joel album that you worked on. Do you have a favorite story or session or album? I mean, they're all great, but do you have one that sticks out as a great memory that you maybe you can share with our listeners?
Well, all those songs, they all have their own story, and some of them aren't as exciting as other ones were, But Only the Good Die Young, Billy's spoken about it many times, of how he wrote it as a reggae tune. And after a while of trying to play it reggae, I threw sticks at him, and I said, look, dude, we're not from Jamaica. I mean, the closest side to Jamaica, and you've been to Jamaica, is the Jamaica Railroad Station, where the Long Island Railroad stops, so you change trains to go out to Long Island. I've been to, and then I started to play that shuffle, that quick
unbelievable
shuffle. Then I thought, okay, I can do this. I can take from somebody else that I admired. I always admired Mitch Mitchell. And he, if you listen to the Axis Boulders Love album, there's a song called Up From the Skies. And it's the same fill as the beginning of Only the Good Die Young, and it's that same shuffle.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's brilliant though. And not only the playing's amazing, but sonically it had such a sound, and then you did some great, you used brushes. It was like, you hit every, there was so much great drumming on that record, man. Phil Ramone was, I don't know if we touched on this last time, but how'd you like working with Phil? I mean, he's a legendary producer. Was that a great experience?
Yeah, well, we were first nervous to go in with Phil because of his reputation. He played with he produced Paul Simon.
Right.
He recorded Frank Sinatra. he even recorded that piece where Marilyn Monroe was singing to John F. Kennedy, you know. So we were a little nervous going in, but the man made us feel so comfortable.
Yeah.
So comfortable. It was unbelievable. We called him Uncle Phil. That's how much we loved him. We loved being with him.
Yeah.
And, you know, he used us for so many other things. So many other artists. John Hyatt. Phoebe Snow. The girl that sang the Flashdance song.
Irene Cara.
What a Feeling. Yeah.
Irene Cara, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. The other one I was married to, smoking clouds of my coffee. What's her name?
What song is that?
You're So Vain.
You're Carly Simon?
Yeah, Carly Simon.
Oh, wow.
He would bring us in. We did the whole soundtrack to Starlight Express when it was on Broadway, and I had to play to the London Symphony Orchestra. I had to put drums to it, and it was so weird because they're so laid back.
Yes.
So unbelievable.
You're pulling up, we're like pushing. That's great.
It was
What an
amazing.
experience, though. That's
Because their one is up. Their one is up. Ours one is down. You know?
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, but the magic was there. I mean, The Stranger was only the second album you guys did together. Billy brought you on for Turnstiles, which is also a great album. So many great songs. And then, 2 years later or a year later, whatever, you do The Stranger, and it becomes one of the greatest albums of all time. And the band at that point it is. No, right? One of the greatest albums of all time. And the band at that point had only been together for a couple of years. So to come up with this masterpiece, and then you followed up with 52nd Street, which is also great. I mean, did you guys realize what you had together as a band pretty quickly?
Well, me and Doug, Russell Javers, and Howie Emerson were a band before that. We were tied,
right.
and we played for a long time together. And then Doug got the gig with Billy. And then when Billy wanted to move back to New York from LA and wanted to use the same guy to play in the studio and live, Doug recruited me into the band. And then when we did Turnstiles and Billy said, I need guitar players, then we got Howie and Russell in the band. So Topper actually became the Billy Joel band at first, with the addition of Richie Knada playing saxophone.
Right. But then once you'd been together, so you knew you obviously meshed and you had chemistry, but then you have Billy Joel as your front man all of a sudden. And now you're creating these just total masterpieces. I mean, did you guys realize at the time the quality of the work that you were putting out? I mean,
No. Listening back, I can remember listening back to Moving Out and going, wow, that sounds really good. It sounded good. I don't know if the song was going to be a hit or anything like that, but it really sounded good, with Phil behind the control room. And I remember when I first went in and they were getting a sound on the drums, Jim Boyer was the engineer, and he turned to Phil, he goes, this guy hits so hard, I don't know what to do. And Phil just pushed it away, went boom, 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 and turned a couple of knobs.
That's great.
Yeah.
Hey, where did you record that record at? The
A&R Studios on 52nd Street and 7th Avenue.
Wow.
Yeah, the building's not there anymore. They tore it down.
Yeah. All the great rooms, record plant's not there anymore. It's
Yeah, we did all the albums up to, I think, The Bridge at A&R.
Yeah. Wow.
I think I read somewhere that before The Stranger, there was talk about George Martin coming in to produce Billy, but he wanted him to get rid of the band, and Billy wouldn't do it. Is that what happened?
That's exactly what happened. He was looking for a producer for what became the Stranger album, and he came to see us play. And we were all excited about it. This is great. George Martin, the Beatles producer. Oh my God, this is unbelievable. He sees the show. Billy meets with him after the show. Billy comes back and we say, so what's going on? And Billy says, he wants to produce me. And we're like, it's great. But he wants to use studio musicians in the studio. We're like, oh man. And then Billy says, I told him, love me, love my band. And I told him it's not going to work out. And we all were quiet for a second. And then I kind of said he sucks anyway. What did he do? America for them. He bombed with Jeff Beck, So he did the Beatles. Big deal.
Yeah. Unreal.
But we'll get Phil Ramone instead. I mean, it's a pretty nice second choice.
Well, Phil Phil came to see us at Carnegie Hall. We played like 3 nights at Carnegie Hall. And Phil came, and when we got into the studio with Phil, he said, I want you to remain the rock and roll animals that I saw on stage that night. Right. Do that. You know, he didn't want us to be prim and proper and, you know, like right. studio cats. And, you know, he wanted us to do what we did on stage that night.
Oh, that's a relief, you know.
Yeah.
Well, it worked, you know. You know, it's funny. I remember I was working in a gas station. Maybe I was 16, and I remember hearing the first time I heard Captain Jack. I think that was Ron Tutt that played on. Was that Ron Tutt that played with him? Do you know?
No, that was Reese Clark. That was almost.
How about that? I didn't know that.
Yeah, Ron Tutt plays on the rest of Piano Man. Reese Clark plays on Captain Jack.
That's a great track too. You hear that? That was one of his early. Did he do that in L.A. or was that done in New York?
That was done. Oh, hang on. That was done in L.A. Yes.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I just, you know, like I still remember hearing that, and I think I had a moment where I thought, I might have thought it was Elton John, you know,
right.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you know, piano guy, but you know what it was the career, and what happened was it just seemed like, for me, he made all the right moves until you stopped playing with him, but it seemed like it was going in the right, you know, musically, his career.
You know, like Piano Man and Street Life have great songs on them.
Yeah.
I mean, even the album that he said that it sped up in the mastering, you know, he sounds like a chipmunk on it, which was called Cold Spring Harbor.
Right, the original.
She's Got Away was on there, and Everybody Loves It Now was on that record. Those are great tunes. We recorded them again for the Songs in the Attic live album because he didn't want anybody to buy that Chipmunks version. And if we put those 2 songs on the live album, people would buy Songs in the Attic instead.
Right.
You know, but they were so fun to play. He was writing great songs. He just didn't have the right band, you know.
I think some people, I mean, people who saw him know, but people might not realize now. You talk about the band in the 70s, once you guys joined in, and then throughout the 80s, there were very few better rock and roll bands in the world. I mean, you were among the handful of the best rock and roll bands. You're right up there with the E Street Band and Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers and the Who. Yeah. And I mean, one of the greatest rock and roll shows I've ever saw was Billy Joel. I think it was on the Bridge Tour in '86, and it was unbelievable. I mean, it kicked ass.
Andy, it's exactly what you hit the nail on the head, because I thought that as a fan going to see him in Philly before I knew Lib, and then having the opportunity to watch them on stage, it really did remind me of what I thought. I never got that close to the E Street Band, but to me, I felt like I was in that kind of that vibe going on, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
It was really, and especially when they started doing the sound check, like you did, like you guys were just doing what you wanted to do, but it wasn't jamming. You were jamming. You were playing like Traffic songs,
right?
Playing them like just like Traffic.
Well, that's why we talked about this the last time. Had Billy Joel named you guys something like, you know, the E Street Band or the Heartbreakers, people I think would look at you guys in a whole different light. And it's obviously you'd still be playing the same music, you'd still make the same contributions to the songs.
Yeah.
But I think there might have been a more, you know, notoriety for you guys.
Yeah.
Had you had a name at the time.
I agree. I think that might have been that would have been a good move to do that.
That way, we talked about that in the studio, and the problem was nobody could come up with a good name.
Right.
And why Phil named when he put the credits on 52nd Street, he called it the Lords of 52nd Street. You know, so and that's the name we use now.
Right.
We should have been using that all along.
That's a good name. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
And you're having a blast playing those songs, doing it. It's unfortunate with this thing with coronavirus. You'd probably be out busy doing, like you had the Slim Kings going on and you were killing it.
Yeah.
You were doing the Lords.
Yep.
You were teaching, doing stuff. I mean, it really put the kibosh on. But I guess the book took up a lot of your time finishing that up. But
well, thank goodness I had the book to do when this all came down. You know, we were in in the final stages of editing and everything and making it right. And I had to go through things, and I wanted to enhance something to say more, you know, like I do this one part about where me and a friend of mine, when we were 16 years old, went to a battle of the bands. And, you know, there's that, the white privilege thing that everybody's talking about. And we had crossed the line and went into the other area. Yeah. And a guy with a straight razor and like put it to my neck and said, hey, we're going to kill you, you know. Luckily, you know, this guy, I had met him like a week before in the candy store I hung out, because he went to jail with a friend of mine, you know, and he recognized me. He goes, hey, I know you. And it was like, you know, so he let me go by. But to experience that, crossing that line, I actually wrote more about what it was like on Long Island in that time. And I got the Newsday article that said in the 60s, Long Island, black and white, oil and water. You know, it was that bad, you know. So I got into stuff like that. I got into stuff with my father. You know, he was very violent. He dealt with his hands a lot, you know, with me especially. And so, you know, I talk about the child abuse and stuff like that in there. You know, like he would have gone to jail if he did what he did to me back then. You know?
Wow.
So, you know, all those roads, though, Dave, you're sitting where you're sitting because of the road you took.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. Yeah.
You too, Andy. You know, that's where you are. Because
you know what?
It might have been a dark road too at one point. You know, where you went, oh my God, I'm screwed up. You know. Yeah.
I mean, it is something that you know I think about a lot. You know, especially if anything, this whole thing that happened down, like I'll call it the shutdown. It's given me an opportunity to reflect. I mean, at one point we do this podcast. We try to do it every week if we can. It's something to do, and it kind of gets me to, you know, I get out of myself. I didn't have to do a lot. I didn't have to do any research on you because I knew everything about you. Like, and Andy's the king of that stuff. But it got me a chance to really kind of think about. Look, I feel very fortunate, because I see guys out there right now, and I see families like really having a tough time. Feeding, education, like it's scary times, man. And I know that, you know, I know that you wouldn't trade a moment of any of your Billy Joel, you know, that whole thing that went down. Me too with the Hooters. I mean, I'm the same, you know, like I have more ups with them than downs. I have very few downs with them, you know. We're all, and unfortunately, we're still close. I mean, I've been recording Eric's solo record. I put a little studio in my home. That was nice. A thing since this went down. I had to convert it into a recording studio, and I've been recording Eric's songs and working on some other stuff. And, you know, I mean, I still got that kind of relationship, and it feels good. And you know, that kind of stuff, you know, it just makes me happy about what's happening with you and Billy. And do you ever, let me ask you something. I know that he's like, do you ever think that you may even do something at some point? Do you ever, I know it's a crazy question.
No, my favorite line that John Lennon said when he used to be asked all the time, when are the Beatles getting back together again? And he would just look and go, tomorrow. You know? Tomorrow. Yeah.
But, you know, like anything, I mean, I kind of look, anything's possible. And not that, you know, I wonder because I miss that spark in him, which is you. But that's selfish on my part, man, you know.
Yeah. Well, if you invited, maybe one night at the Garden, who knows? I don't know. It's totally up to him. It's his kid.
You open that door, and that's important, you know. So yeah. I think that's great, you know.
The door is open.
Here's another question going way back. Yesterday, obviously, was the 35th anniversary of Live Aid. I know Dave posted a.
You know what?
And there's a story behind Billy Joel not playing Live Aid because he was originally booked to play it, as far as from what I've read. Do you remember that at all, Liberty? Do you remember what happened there?
I don't remember any of it. All I know is I read today that Dave played early in the morning.
You know,
the Hooters were at 9:15 in the morning. They opened Joan Baez and then the Hooters in Philly. Yeah. But
no, I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, apparently, according to what I read, that Billy was originally going to play it, and then there was an issue with getting the whole band in town, together, because I don't know what you guys were doing at the time, but he was concerned he wasn't going to be able to get the band, or they wanted him to just play on piano, and he was afraid that, that how that would work as opposed to playing without with the band. So it didn't happen. But
I could see that with the piano thing.
Yeah.
He doesn't like to do that too often.
Right.
Yeah, I was wondering about that because he at the time he was as big as he was massive.
Oh, he would have been. Yeah, he would have been one of the biggest names in the lineup.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Of course, you did obviously get to do huge stadiums. The whole Elton John thing. That must have been something, playing for 70, 80,000 people. I mean, Dave got to experience it at Live Aid, and you got to experience it several times.
That was like you played stadiums, and it became probably like a club for you, right?
Yeah.
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 Because I remember going to see you. Lib invited me to a show at Giant Stadium. You were doing multiple nights with Elton.
Yeah.
And I remember walking into her. It looked like it was 100,000 people there.
Yeah. 90,000 to be exact. Yeah.
Your office. It was awesome.
Yeah. Well, what was the best part of that whole thing? It was like, before I got with Billy, they told me, listen to Elton John, because Billy's really into Elton John. He was into that. So I studied Nigel.
Yeah.
And
right.
Nigel Olsen. And you could hear, like, in Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me, he rides on the cymbal in that first verse, and you could hear I do that in Honesty, and I do that in Leningrad.
Yes.
I ride on that cymbal. I always loved that, and I loved his fills and everything.
Yeah.
So I was able to look at him one day, and I said, as a student of Nigel Olsen, how am I doing?
You did? You got to ask him?
Yeah, he said, you're doing great, mate, it was one of them. Then I said, who do you like?
Yeah.
Who did you like? And he said, I'll tell you what, in Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me, when he does that triplet roll at the end, he said, I got that from B.J. Wilson and Procol Harum.
Wow.
I love Procol Harum.
Yeah.
He loved them. He loved the guy that played with the Hollies. What was his name? Bobby Elliott.
Yeah, Bobby Elliott.
Yeah. He said, I love Bobby Elliott, and you could hear it in his music, and he plays.
Yeah. I love those stories. I'll forget where I got them, but when they were recording, like Elton's early records, when they go to Caribou, how they would work just three-piece. Elton would have a song, and then he would come in and they would work it out. And, they stayed at that place, and it was just three guys. And they worked out the tune, and that's unfortunately, we don't, that's not an art if you get to do that, bravo. But back in the day, there were more bands doing that, where you would get together and work out parts. Nowadays, everything is like, Eric said, it's still fun, but it's not like getting in a room and working out parts and playing.
Well, no, you know what it is? It's a producer's world now. The producer puts the guy together, brings in, he sets the drum machine up, and then somebody plays chords on top of that.
Right.
Then some sings a melody on top of that. Then they'll bring the top player, and then the drummer comes in.
Then the drums puts it on it. Yeah.
As opposed to
recordings like that,
right? As opposed to in real time when you're throwing the sticks at Billy Joel because you think that Only the Good Die Young is not supposed to be a reggae song.
We were working songs out from nothing. Sometimes he would come in and have nothing. I did one of those. Rich Redmond, who plays the country music.
Yeah, we got him on as a guest.
Wonderful guy, wonderful player. And I did one of his camps. He had camps down in Nashville. And he had me as the rock guy and all these Nashville guys. And they had the same story. Like, we would go in and listen to the demo that sounded like a real record. And the artist would say, you just have to duplicate this. We just want it to sound a little better. Great. And then I got up there and I said, I go into the studio. Maybe the guy has a song. Maybe he has a piece of a song. And we have to start from there.
Yeah.
He has no idea where he's going.
Yeah.
So it was so different.
You were composing. That's the way I always look at it. I always, that's the way I look at you as a drummer, is that you were creating, you were a big part of the song. There's no doubt, it's like that song it was a lot of pressure. I don't know if you felt it, but you had to, create parts for that. And you know, you just heard the section, or inspire those parts by what you were playing.
Yeah, you know, it's funny you say that, and I'm going to be patting you on the back again now. And I know Andy Andy can't hear this, but I listened closely to all those new zombies, and groove that you play fits that tune so well.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Wow, I couldn't have thought of anything else to play that would have fit that tune that well.
Yeah,
you know, and I still can't figure out what you're doing. Is it a reverb, or are you actually lifting the stick like when you're going, ta-ta, you know that?
Yeah, I'm playing on a cross stick. I'm just going on 1, 2, 3. Actually, the count is 1 and a 2 and a 3, and then I throw a little double time with my right hand once in a while. But there was, you know, when we recorded that, there was a Roger Lynn machine that was making this sound that was going. It was like this sequence that on top of the hi-hat mixed together created this kind of thing that went on. So it kind of, you know, you're probably like me, you get inspired by sounds. And I hear these sounds and vibes, and, you know, it gets me going, you know, it's like that and a good sandwich, you know, like I'm ready to go. You know, and that's the truth. I remember, I don't know if you ever worked at Arden Studios in Memphis, but there was a sandwich joint across the street. I'm doing a record there, and I kid you not, I go in there morning, and for some reason I didn't have it. And then Joe Hardy would say, go across the street and get him a barbecue sandwich. He'd come back to a sandwich, and I'm cutting 3 tracks. I don't know. You know what I mean? Forget about it. But you know, you get inspired by certain, you know, like that's where you're looking for some things to inspire you, and you hope that like when you're coming up with parts for songs or whatever, you just hope that what you do, you know, fits it. And you know, we're lucky. We're kind of the lucky ones that, you know, we get to look back. Like I'll tell you, you know, nowadays with, you know, when I see like all you zombies, if I see the video, we worked with this guy, Donald Campbell, the director, and he said to me, Liv, he says, hey, how about one of those Simmons drum sets? You want to put it on the thing and you come down, it's electronic, looks real cool. And I'm going, I don't know. I don't think it's me. And I'm so freaking glad that I didn't go, because it's a real drum set. And I have nothing against that stuff, but I listen to tracks, so like you hear tracks, like I listen to your stuff, and it holds up as it, you know, it doesn't sound like, you know, it just sounds great. And that's a good feeling I have when I hear like Nervous Night or the album out there, like that's the record still holds up, because we had great Bill Whitman as the engineer on that, who was on our podcast. I worked with Steve Churchill, guys that really knew, like they grew up like we did, listening to the Beatles and listening to the Stones. You listened to a lot of R&B. Hey man, you played with Mitch Ryder. I don't know if we talked about that last time. You literally played with Mitch Ryder, man. And
you were like 18 years old at the time, right? I mean, you were like
for Johnny B.
Fresh out of high school. That was a lesson in itself. That was a road that I was really glad that I took. That I learned a lot from him.
Lib, you're an absolute. I'm not kidding when I say it. You're a treasure. I'm so glad that the book is doing well.
Yeah, plug the book again. Lib, hold up the book again so we can tell people there.
There it is.
It's called Liberty, Life, Billy, and the Pursuit of Happiness. It's Liberty Devitto's story. It's on Amazon.com, HudsonMusic.com. There he is on the back cover. Is that
the Billy Joel Band?
Billy Joel Band, right? So go check it out. The great stories. We only scratched the surface of some of them here today.
Yeah, we did.
Congratulations again, by the way. It's a great accomplishment to have a book out. I mean, it's
got to feel amazing.
Well, you know, it's amazing. It's like I never took lessons, and I play on one of the top 5 albums ever, Billy Joel's Greatest 1 and 2. I barely met it at high school, and now I have a book out.
I know.
I am the American dream, and I'm
proof that
writer.
Wow.
And you're a relatively new dad on top of all of that, right?
Yeah, after raising 3 girls, I'm
amazing daughters too. You like incredible.
Right.
Right. You've met them.
Yeah.
Right.
So how old's your young one now?
She's 3.
3. So okay. So you got. So
how you do it, man? That's amazing.
She's keeping you on your toes, I'm sure.
Oh, she's a Beatle fan too. She takes my CD. She knows how to work the CD player. Puts on Beatles songs. You know, she knows the words to all of them now.
Oh my God.
I think really learning her diction because the Beatles, you can understand every word they sing.
Yes.
You know, and she really pronounces things really well. You know, sometimes she's got these little Beatle dolls, and they got to talk. Hey Ringo, where you going? You know. It's
Wow.
amazing.
That's awesome.
Does she listen to any Billy Joel? Any of your stuff?
No, I did an interview yesterday with CBS FM, the oldie station here, you know, and we had the radio on out there. It was a live interview, and she was like, "Wow, that's that on the radio," you know. She likes still rock and roll to me, you know.
Oh, okay, right, yeah. Is Dallin here, Dave?
Well, I was hoping she would. I don't know. I hear somebody knocking on the door.
Well, she can come in. We're very informal here.
He's still killing it, but.
Quick, take your shirt off.
Well, okay. Well, we'll wait here for. But do you have is there a part of the book that you're proud of the whole thing? Is there one particular chapter or section that resonates the most with you, or?
My better half, she wanted to come say hi. She's the only person came down because she's never done this because Liberty Devitto's on. I want to come say hello.
I was in Japan with you guys at the top
How are you?
when the Hooters played.
She was there. It was before we were together. She was working with the Hooters, so she was with us when we played at the Egg at the Dome.
Oh yes, okay.
Art Garfunkel and Pelletieri, Billy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of our crew had the greatest video of when Art Garfunkel was on stage. The whole first two rows were sound asleep.
I have the same video.
She has the video. I'm sending it to you.
Fantastic.
Everybody was sleeping.
They were all sleeping. One guy, matter of fact, there's a guy sleeping on the speaker.
Oh,
All that, he's on the speaker, he's asleep.
The crew was sleeping. Yeah, it was very funny.
It was great.
You don't have to. You have the most amazing hair.
Is she?
Oh, it's humidity.
Yeah.
Thank you. Every
time I see a picture of you, it's like, wow, her hair is amazing.
You didn't say that to me, Liberty.
Wasn't it recently? You get buffed. You get
I'll
buffed.
let you guys finish up. Great to see you.
Wait a minute. You
She had to say hello.
Anniversary?
What?
Did you guys just have an anniversary or something?
We have 11 years coming up
As
in
a-
a couple of
as
days.
a couple,
couple.
as a couple, and then we got married 3 years ago. Yeah.
In October it'll be 3 years.
Yeah.
But we've been
All right.
friends for like 36 years.
And Liv has a 3-year-old.
Wow.
I do.
Anyway, I'll let you guys finish up. Take care.
All right, see you, Dallin.
Bye.
That's the first. She's never coming on the show. She's like one of the coming.
Yeah.
Hey, Liv's on.
Yeah. So I was just finishing up with Liberty while you were gone, Dave, just asking was there one part of the book that just really resonates with you, or just that you're most proud of, or is it just the book in general?
Well, there's a part, the section called My Drums was the longest chapter. So we broke it up so that after every chapter, like the one about Topper or the one about my brother Vinny, then there's a little section of My Drums. And it keeps you going through all these other things that my drum was always there for me. No matter what happened, my drum was always there for me. In times, in the good times, in the bad times, whenever it was, I always had that drum to go to. So, and it explains a lot about like what I think of my drums, you know, like it talks about like, when I see somebody else play, I feel like it's somebody else is with the girl I used to go out with, and I still love her. You know, and I get jealous, and I don't want to see them anymore.
I want to do it. Yeah.
So that one, I'm pretty proud of that.
That's cool. Well, check it out. It's Liberty Devitto's book once again. Liberty, Life, Billy, and the Pursuit of Happiness. Great stuff from Liberty Devitto. There it is. Amazon.com, HudsonMusic.com, and at this time in a couple of years, Dave, you're going to have one too. But we'll work on that, Dave.
Yes, and go to Hudson Music, man, because they do the drum books.
Well, they've done a great job with you, and I I can't be happier for you, my friend. I think it's fantastic. Absolutely great.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Liberty, and hopefully once the whole coronavirus stuff gets under control, you'll be back on the road with the Slim Kings and with Lords of 52nd Street.
Come down to Philly and we'll go to
put it in the
Italy.
pocket. I really want you to do that sometime. It'd be great.
All right.
We're all fans.
All right. Love you, Dave.
Thanks so much, Liberty. This was great.
I love you, brother.
Love you too, man. Stay well.
All right.
Andy?
All right, Dave, we're going to sign. Hey, I see, Dave, you're wearing the Expressway to Your Heart t-shirt on Charlie Ingwe's birthday.
Charlie Ingwe's birthday. That's why I wore it. It was his
That's
birthday.
awesome. Happy birthday, Charlie.
5, it's amazing.
Right.
All right,
All right. Well, I'm going to sign off, Dave.
Oops, I'm done.
See you next time.
Bye.